The crystal wine glasses clinked as another round of subtle insults made their way around our family's weekly dinner table. The same dining room, the same judgments, the same condescending smiles I'd endured for the past 7 years. "So, Sarah," my mother began, delicately cutting her herb-crusted salmon, "still working at that, what was it called? Summit Financial." I took a careful sip of wine, thinking about my corner office on the 48th floor of Summit Tower. Not that they knew it was my office. To them, I was just another employee at some small company. "Yes, mother. Still at Summit." "And what exactly do you do there again?" my sister Rachel asked, adjusting her Cartier watch, a modest bonus from her VP position at our father's investment firm, Walker Securities. "Process loans or something?" They only knew. Summit Financial had become the largest private lending institution on the East Coast. Our approval carried more weight than any traditional bank. Including, though they didn't know it yet, the weight to save or sink Walker Securities. "Something like that," I replied quietly. "You know," Father set down his fork, his voice carrying that familiar note of disappointment, "there's always a position for you at Walker Securities. Something more suitable for a Walker." I thought about the documents sitting on my desk, loan applications from Walker Securities, desperately seeking capital to cover their mounting losses. Applications that would cross my desk tomorrow morning. "I'm happy where I am," I said. My brother Michael snorted, nearly choking on his Wagyu beef. "Happy? Processing paperwork? Come on, Sarah. You graduated top of your class from Wharton. You should be doing real finance." Real finance? Like the kind that had Walker Securities teetering on the edge of bankruptcy? Speaking of real finance, Rachel straightened importantly, "We just closed another major deal. Private equity. Very exclusive." "That's wonderful, darling," Mother beamed, then turned her carefully curated concern my way. "Sarah, dear, when will you do something significant with your life?" My phone buzzed, a message from my actual executive assistant. "Ms. Walker, final review of Walker Securities loan applications complete. Board meets tomorrow at 9 a.m. "Actually," I started, but Michael cut me off. "Did you hear about Dad's latest acquisition? $3 billion in assets. Now that's significant." $3 billion in leveraged assets, I thought, all dependent on tomorrow's loan approval. My loan approval. "Of course," Father added, swirling his 20-year-old scotch. "Such deals require real financial expertise. Not just paper pushing." My phone buzzed again. I glanced at the screen and had to suppress a smile. Perfect timing. "Excuse me," I said, "I should take this." "Work call." "Work." Rachel laughed. "At this hour? What, someone's late on their mortgage payment." I stood up and answered the phone on speaker. "Sarah Walker speaking. I'm sorry to disturb your evening, Ms. Walker." My assistant's voice filled the dining room, "but I wanted to confirm your meeting tomorrow morning. The board is assembled to review Walker Securities' loan application. As CEO, your final approval is required." The silence that fell over the dining room was absolute. Mother's fork clattered against her plate. Father's scotch glass froze halfway to his lips. Rachel's perfect posture crumpled. "CEO." Michael whispered. I smiled, enjoying the moment. "Yes, James, I'll be there. Please ensure all documentation of Walker Securities' financial irregularities is ready for review." "Of course, Ms. Walker." "And shall I inform the press about the potential default, or wait until after the board meeting?" Father's face went pale. "Default. That will be all, James," I said calmly. "Thank you." I ended the call and turned back to my family, taking in their shocked expressions. "Now about that position at Walker Securities. You're the CEO of Summit Financial?" Rachel's voice cracked. "For the past 5 years," I confirmed, smoothing my Chanel dress. "No more bargain clothes they used to criticize. Though I'm surprised you didn't know. Summit only controls about 30% of the private lending market on the East Coast." Mother found her voice first. But you said you were just working there." "No, Mother. You assumed I was just working there. Just like you assumed I was pushing papers and processing loans. Never once did you actually ask what I did." Father stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "This is why Summit has been blocking our credit lines? Our loan applications? Because of some family vendetta." "Blocking?" I raised an eyebrow. I simply applied the same stringent standards we use for all high-risk applications. The fact that Walker Securities fails to meet those standards isn't personal, it's mathematical. My phone buzzed again with the family group chat. Michael, this must be a joke. Rachel, Dad, do something. Mother, how could she do this to us? Father, emergency meeting. My office. Now. I gathered my things ready to leave them to their crisis planning. The board meets at 9 a.m. sharp. I suggest you have your financials in order. Sarah, Mother called after me, her voice trembling, surely you won't let the family business fail? I paused at the door. Funny. 7 years of watching me fail, and now suddenly family matters. The drive home to my penthouse apartment, paid for with the success they'd dismissed, was quiet. My phone kept buzzing with messages from my executive team. Press release prepared. Board votes confirmed. Legal team in position. Everything ready for tomorrow, CO. Tomorrow. When they'd learned that the daughter they'd mocked as a paper pusher held their financial fate in her hands. When they'd discover that their empire's survival depended on my signature. Sometimes the smallest jobs hide the biggest surprises. The next morning I arrived at Summit Tower at 7 a.m. sharp. The November sun was just rising over the city, casting long shadows across the financial district I'd quietly conquered while my family was busy undermining me. Good morning, Ms. Walker. James greeted me with a tablet in hand. Your family has been in their offices since 5 a.m. They've called every contact they have in finance, trying to find alternative funding. I smiled, watching the city wake up from my corner office. Any luck? None. Every major lender knows Walker Securities needs Summit's approval to stay afloat. Your father's been on CNBC 3 times this morning, trying to project confidence. My phone buzzed with the family group chat. Michael, crisis meeting in progress. We need options. Rachel, called every bank in New York. No one will touch us without Summit's backing. Father, this isn't over. No daughter of mine will destroy Walker Securities. Mother, Sarah, please. We can talk about this. If they only knew how long I'd been watching, waiting, building. While they were busy mocking my small company job, I'd transformed Summit Financial into the most powerful private lender in the country. Every major deal, every significant transaction required our approval. But more importantly, I'd spent years documenting Walker Securities' questionable practices. The over-leveraged assets, the risky investments, the regulatory corners cut, all carefully noted and filed away. Ms. Walker. James interrupted my thoughts. Your brother just went on Bloomberg claiming Walker Securities is stronger than ever. I adjusted my Armani suit. No more embarrassing clothes they used to criticize. Let's see how strong they are at 9 a.m. At 8:45, my chief risk officer Linda Chen entered my office. Everything's ready, Sarah. The board has reviewed Walker Securities loan applications. The numbers are concerning. How bad? Without our approval on these loans, they'll default on $2.8 billion in obligations by end of week. Your father's been calling every 15 minutes. Another buzz from my phone. Michael, this is just business rivalry, right? She won't actually let us fail. Rachel, she's bluffing. Must be. Father, no child of mine would dare. Mother, someone please wake me from this nightmare. I checked my reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows. The daughter they'd dismissed as a paper pusher now controlled the fate of their empire. The one they'd mocked had become the most powerful person in their world. It's time, I said to Linda. Let's review some loan applications. The walk to the boardroom felt surreal. Through the glass walls, I could see my family already waiting, father pacing, Michael frantically working on his laptop, Rachel stress smoothing her perfect hair, mother clutching her designer handbag like a life preserver. Ms. Walker. James murmured beside me. They're ready. I straightened my jacket, thinking of all those dinners, all those subtle insults, all those dismissive comments about my small company job. Perfect. Time for some real finance. The boardroom fell silent as I pushed open the doors. Michael's laptop snapped shut. Rachel's compact mirror clattered to the table. Mother's grip on her handbag tightened visibly. Sarah, father stepped forward, attempting his usual commanding presence. This is unnecessary. We can discuss this privately as family. Actually, I said, taking my seat at the head of the table, this is exactly where it needs to be discussed. The Summit Financial Board meeting is now in session. Let's review Walker Securities loan applications. I pressed a button and the room's screens lit up with their financial data, every risky investment, every questionable decision, every potential regulatory violation displayed in high-definition clarity. Shall we begin with the $3 billion in leveraged assets you acquired last month? I asked, opening their file. The ones requiring today's loan approval to avoid default? The color drained from Father's face. This wasn't the daughter they'd dismissed as a paper pusher anymore. This was the CEO who held their fate in her hands. And the board meeting was just beginning. This is absurd. Michael found his voice first. You can't seriously be treating us like regular applicants. I clicked through their financial statements on the screen. Actually, given Walker Securities' risk profile, we should be treating you with extra scrutiny. Let's start with your debt-to-equity ratios. Debt-to-equity. Rachel's perfectly manicured hands trembled as she reached for her water glass. Since when do you understand complex financial metrics? I finished for her. Probably around the same time I was graduating top of my class at Wharton. You know, before I took that paper-pushing job you loved to mock. Father stepped forward, switching to his negotiation voice. Sarah, be reasonable. Walker Securities has been a pillar of this community for 40 years. A pillar built on increasingly shaky foundation, I replied, bringing up more data. Your leverage is 3 times industry standard. Your risk exposure is off the charts. And your recent acquisitions. I paused, letting the numbers speak for themselves. They make 2008's subprime crisis look conservative. The board members murmured among themselves, reviewing the documents with increasing concern. But you can fix this, Mother said quietly. Summit Financial can approve the loans. We could, I agreed. But should we? Let's review your loan application criteria. I pressed another button and new figures filled the screens. Credit rating, downgraded last month. Collateral, already leveraged to other lenders. Risk assessment. I looked directly at Father, catastrophic. This is revenge. Rachel stood up, her voice shaking. For all those dinners, all those comments about your job. Revenge. I laughed softly. No, this is risk management. The very thing Walker Securities forgot about while chasing bigger deals and faster profits. I distributed copies of Summit's loan analysis to the board. As you can see, approving these loans would violate at least 6 federal banking regulations. Not to mention our own ethical lending guidelines. Guidelines can be adjusted, Father said desperately. For family. Family. I stood slowly, commanding the room. Like the family that dismissed me for 7 years? The family that mocked my career choices? The family that never once bothered to ask what I actually did at that small company? The room fell silent. But since you mentioned family, I continued, let's talk about how Walker Securities handles family business. I brought up another set of documents. These are internal memos discussing your latest acquisition. The one you leveraged the company to buy. The one that will default without our loans. Michael's face went pale. How did you get those? I'm the CEO of Summit Financial, I reminded him. Every major financial transaction in this city crosses my desk, including the ones you tried to hide. I walked around the table watching them squirm. 7 years ago I came to Walker Securities with innovative risk management strategies. You laughed me out of the building. Called it paper pushing. Said real finance was about bold moves and big risks. Father started to speak, but I held up my hand. So I took my paper-pushing ideas to Summit Financial. Built them into the most sophisticated risk assessment systems in the industry. Created lending guidelines that protected both lenders and borrowers. Transformed a small company into the most powerful private lender on the East Coast. I returned to my seat, opening another file. And now here we are. Walker Securities needs Summit Financial to survive. The paper pusher holds the power. Funny how life works out, isn't it? What do you want? Father asked quietly. Want? I don't want anything. This isn't personal, it's business. The same business you taught me, remember? No room for sentiment in finance. Your words, Father. I distributed another document, my final proposal. However, Summit Financial is willing to consider a structured rescue package. With conditions. They grabbed the papers desperately, but their relief was short-lived as they read the terms. These conditions, Michael started, are non-negotiable, I finished. Complete restructuring of Walker Securities. New risk management systems, our systems. Father steps down as CEO. Professional management team installed. And full compliance audit of all past transactions. This is impossible. Rachel exploded. You're destroying our family legacy. No, I corrected calmly, I'm saving it. From itself. From its arrogance. From its outdated methods that brought it to this point. The next 4 hours were intense negotiations, but in the end they had no choice. By afternoon, Walker Securities had signed Summit Financial's rescue package. My family's empire hadn't been destroyed, it had been transformed. As the board members filed out, Mother lingered behind. All those dinners, she said softly. All those times we dismissed you. Taught me everything I needed to know about what not to do in business, I finished. Consider it an invaluable education. 1 year later, I stood in my expanded office, watching Walker Securities flourish under new management. Michael had surprisingly adapted well to the new risk management systems, finally understanding why paper pushing mattered. Rachel had resigned, unable to accept the changes. And Father? He watched from retirement as his unsuccessful daughter transformed his life's work into something actually sustainable. The family dinner tradition continued, but differently now. No more mockery, no more dismissive comments about careers or success. Amazing how perspective changes when the paper pusher becomes the power broker. My phone buzzed with a new family group chat message. Michael, risk assessment meeting tomorrow, sis. Thanks for teaching me real finance. Rachel, miss you at the office. Never thought I'd say this, but you were right. Mother, dinner Sunday? Promise no comments about jobs. Father, you didn't just save our company, you made it better. I smiled, remembering all those painful dinners, all those condescending remarks. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong, it's proving yourself so right that they have no choice but to acknowledge it. Through my office windows I could see both Summit Tower and the reformed Walker Securities building. The paper pusher had become the industry leader. The small company job had become an empire. Ms. Walker. James appeared at my door. Your 3 p.m. is here. The Federal Reserve Chairman wants to discuss new banking regulations. I gathered my files, straightening my suit, and headed for the door. Because success isn't just about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right, every single day.